from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. We're very glad you're here. Welcome to church today. The prelude begins our service. What? Is it my turn? Yes. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. When a life ends, we gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. Marilyn Povenmire has died. On this day, we gather to remember as well as to mourn, to celebrate as well as to lament. But all the more so, we gather to give thanks for Marilyn. We give thanks for family and friends. We give thanks for all lives well lived. Indeed, on this day, we gather to give thanks for the gift of life itself. We'll begin today with a recitation of a 1794 song that was a favorite of Marilyn's, A Red, Red Rose by the Scots poet Robert Burns. Elizabeth Povenmire, I think is in Alexandria, Virginia, and has that recitation for us.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm Dale and Marilyn's youngest. Our mother was both an English and a Scottish rose. She was proud of her heritage, although she sometimes favored her Scottish roots, especially when it came to poetry. 4 days before she passed, Mom and I were on the phone discussing music and poetry. She recited this poem to me from memory, and we were both delighted. I'd like to share it with you today. And again, the poem is A Red, Red Rose by Robert Burns, and it is meant to be recited with a Scottish brogue. I will do my best. Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. My love is like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. And fear thee weel, my only love, and fear thee weel a while, and I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 miles.
Her obituary says Marilyn was born in Lowell, Massachusetts on November 15th, 1932 to Charlotte Harvey and Hugh Ross. She grew up in Reading, Massachusetts, attending Reading High School, graduated summa cum laude with a degree in economics from Tufts University. Dale Povenmire was attending Tufts University's Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. They met there and married in 1954, which up to this point in the story could sound like it's going to be kind of usual, but there was very little that was usual about Marilyn. Marilyn and Dale put their lives together and entered the United States Foreign Service, living in and taking on posts of assignment in a variety of places that included Mexico City, Santiago, Chile, Zanzibar, East Africa, Asuncion, Paraguay, Oporto, Portugal, Caracas, Venezuela, Nicosia, Cyprus, Lisbon, Portugal, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Rome, Italy, London, England, Washington, D.C. Marilyn began her long career in the Foreign Service as what was called the dependent spouse, a role which was utterly unpaid, as I understand it, or professionally recognized even, but did have some very definite expectations of the tasks she would complete in connecting with and taking care of other officers and their spouses. Such was the world at the time, a time before Marilyn. But things were about to change. She found herself a plaintiff in a class action lawsuit that finally resulted in a State Department rule change that would allow both spouses of a married couple to be full-time Foreign Service officers. And she had already passed the Foreign Service exam back before wives were allowed to be more than dependent spouses. But after the, after that lawsuit in 1972, Marilyn took the exam again, passing it for the second time, eventually serving as a consular officer and chief consul at U.S. missions and as deputy consul general at U.S. embassies in Rome and in London. Rather than trying to explain the role of a consul officer myself, I'd like to try to let Marilyn tell you about it herself.
There I worked in visa work with immigrants and non-immigrants seeking to travel to the US. Later on, including in Lisbon, I concentrated on consular services for American citizens. Many Americans live abroad for various reasons, and many more travel each year. So consuls offer a variety of services for their citizens, rather like a social worker or a minister even. The range of human emotions, aspirations, and problems is astounding. It's never a dull moment. The consul needs to be imaginative, empathetic, and a problem solver. Citizenship is another determination made by consuls when babies are born abroad and deciding whether they qualify under our law for US citizenship. Then there are the problems include challenges like death cases, missing persons, people involved in accidents or illness, arrest cases. I've seen the inside of many jails, destitution, all these things, including more recently crisis management, are in the job description of a consular officer.
And come back to the video. She's still on there, out here. Now, crisis management indeed. In 1974, the Turkish army invaded Cyprus. A few months later, Marilyn went to Nicosia as the sole American consular officer there to work both sides of the green line that separated opposing forces. And more crisis management. In 1985, the PLO hijacked the cruise ship Achille Lauro in the Mediterranean and pushed a passenger, Leon Klinghoffer, and his wheelchair overboard. Marilyn worked to repatriate Mr. Klinghoffer's body to the US. And even more crises. The PLO struck again at Fiumicino Airport in Rome. And I hope we can get Marilyn to share her recollection about that with us now.
Or maybe a year later, there was an episode in Fiumicino Airport in Rome, the main international airport, where passengers of El Al and of TWA were lined up to check in, and some terrorists came in with guns and sprayed them with machine guns and killed 6 Americans and 15 were wounded. And I heard about it and had a driver, and we were rushed to the airport to do what we could, and then to hospitals around to visit the wounded people. One of those who died was a 12-year-old girl, and it was really hard. Later on, they finished with the autopsy, I guess it was, and a policeman came and gave me her earrings.
In telling me about the Rome airport attack, Marilyn said she had been one of the first people to get to that scene. And she said no one should have to witness such a gruesome thing as she had encountered there. She was a tough one, I think she had to be for all the things she saw in her life. After her Rome assignment, Marilyn went back to Washington, D.C. for a year to attend the National War College, which led to an interesting experience, I think, and here she will be again, I hope.
In the spring, the students at the War College and the National Defense University have an opportunity to go abroad. I guess you'd call it broadening, to an area which offers something to do with their interest. At the time, I was involved in a subgroup that was studying shipping of the United States and capabilities for our shipping troops and supplies overseas, and just the shipping industry in general. So it was decided that we should go and see what the Chinese were doing. And I made a special application to be considered to go there, since my next assignment was going to have worldwide responsibilities, and I played on that. And I was chosen at the first time they sent a woman on the trip to China, which actually was an annual trip. 19 men and me. It was a fascinating trip. I was assigned to the front office, they call it, of the Bureau of Consular Affairs. And my title was Director of Policy and Coordination Staff. So I had to keep up on what was happening both in Washington and in the posts around the world and in all the areas of consular responsibility. I also worked directly for the Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs, and took on such tasks as when she was called to testify in Congress, I wrote her speeches and researched the material to do that. I served on emergency crisis responses on the 7th floor of the State Department, is where the command center.
After a 20-year career as a spouse in one of the first tandem couples of the U.S. Foreign Service, Marilyn retired. To the supreme good fortune of this congregation, Marilyn and Dale retired to Venice and found this church, which again, I will ask her to tell you more about. Dick? Yep. I'm sorry, yes. It's probably number 5. It's number 5.
Or maybe a year later, there was an episode in Fiumicino Airport in Rome, the main international
That's the one you
airport,
played.
where passengers. That was in November '99, and the church was celebrating its first anniversary of the first meeting that they held. We joined in the spring of 2000. I mean, we wrote in the book that we wanted to belong and be members. And lo and behold, about 6 months later, I was asked to fill the vacancy as treasurer. And I hadn't done that kind of work, but I took it on and thoroughly enjoyed it and kept really busy at it. during the time that we were building our sanctuary. So it was a challenging time, and great satisfaction that I could serve that way. I was treasurer for almost 4 years until it was time for somebody else to do it. And anyway, Dale was coming in as president. And I continued on the finance side, finance committee, and also endowment side until just recently. That was in November '99, and the church.
Besides their work as president and treasurer of this congregation, respectively, Dale and Marilyn have been very active in other ways and have made friends over their many years at this church. I've heard from more than one person that it was the Povenmires who went the extra mile to make those people feel welcome when they were first visiting, chatting over coffee, sharing a meal, acting as the consummate diplomats. And I imagine that many of you now joining us from over at Village on the Isle, where they've lived for several years now, have had a similar experience of the Povenmires. I know they love their children. And here's Marilyn once again with a last word about her family.
We have 4 children, and they came along with us on this odyssey through these various countries, and having to leave friends behind, changing schools. And so it was a real challenge for them. And we had to make sure that they understood that we were behind them and that we were all in it together. And I think that message got across. And so we're very proud of the adults that they grew up to be.
I'm very proud to have known Marilyn these recent years. She was definitely not the usual person. Her story, not the usual story. She was a force to be reckoned with. She was committed to this country, to its standing in the world, and to its foreign service. She was committed to helping people in the best ways she knew how. She loved her husband. She loved her children, loved her family and friends, and we her. Our interlude, Blue Boat Home, was written by the Unitarian Universalist songwriter Peter Mayer and is here performed by the choir of the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Burlington, Vermont. This has been arranged by and directed by James Stewart.
One second.
On these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never heard thanks to the waves upholding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Read the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. And the earth is my blue boat home.
We have, oh, we're not on yet. We have three folks who will offer some words of remembrance now. First, coming to you from this pulpit, Bev Morrison. Following her will be Hugh Ross, and then Susan Povenmire.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure today to talk about Marilyn, but I'm limiting my comments to her experience here in Venice and particularly with the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice. We heard a clip in Marilyn's voice where she said that they visited in November 1999, and it happened to be the anniversary of the first meeting of those gathered. The Povenmires joined in the spring of 2000, and about 6 months later, Marilyn was asked to fill the vacancy of treasurer. In her mild-mannered, quiet voice, she went on to say that she had not done that type of work, but she found she enjoyed it, and it brought her great satisfaction. What she didn't say was that she created the financial foundation for the congregation, one that has benefited the congregation for 20+ years. It is one thing to assume a position already fully defined, where one simply steps in and follows the example of those who have led the way. It is quite another to move into a position where every step needs to be carefully researched before any action can be taken. That was the situation Marilyn faced. In an earlier radio segment, Marilyn described the skills needed to be a good consul: imaginative, empathetic, a problem solver with excellent crisis management skills. All of these abilities were ones she not only possessed, but ones she put into use in working with her fellow Unitarians. Those who were in the congregation had no clue what the whirlwind, super capable individual they were just meeting would go on to accomplish. The congregation, which had been in existence for about a year when Marilyn and Dale arrived, had accomplished much. They had amassed a dedicated core of people. They met every week in a community room of a local housing development. They had purchased hymnals, and they were on their way. But the reality was that they had a long way to go. Everything, such as policies and procedures, the how and the why of everything, had yet to be defined. In the records that Marilyn organized, she clearly spelled out the complicated, detailed business for a very major project, one that involved 2 houses, rezoning from Sarasota County to the city of Venice, permitting for everything, the landscaping for all the buildings, a land swap with the Island Village Montessori School next door, architects, 1 new sanctuary, hundreds of new chairs and miscellaneous other furniture. Of course, these are all areas for expenditures. There were also the other side, the acquisition of funds. Marilyn was working with many others to address all of these issues, but she was the only person who was officially the treasurer. The cost of this little project, $866,583.09. We can be certain of this total because Marilyn kept the books and accounted for every single penny. By closely examining the paper trail she amassed, one can reconstruct the actual development of the physical plant. In addition to accounting for the expenses involving the buildings and land, her concern with the finances drew her to solve other issues. What about insurance? Of what kind? How much? What about ministerial contracts? How do you begin to write those? Every day must have been exciting, for one never knew what the requirements for that day might be. For example, the board minutes for 1 month reported, Marilyn Povenmire has completed all paperwork for filing of our property as house of worship status for tax exemption. I imagine that each day may have brought some new subject that needed investigation. Marilyn did start out slowly. She was only an ex officio of the endowment committee when she began. This was about the same time they began to attend services, but within a few months, she officially assumed the position of treasurer. She was elected to that position several times until she retired in 2004. In that year, she became chair of the finance committee. Then in 2007, the head of the endowment committee, memorial gifts, and the Heritage Club. Her work with the endowment committee found her making solid recommendations for the investment of funds. Over the years, the congregation has benefited immensely from those well-researched plans. Marilyn kept her hand in something or other dealing with the finances of the congregation, including serving in 2010 as part of the negotiation team to draft a contract for the first settled minister. Throughout, she served as an unofficial advisor, a consultant to all who asked in good faith. She was a marvelous team player who always had time for her fellow congregants. For several years, Marilyn sang in the choir. At one point, she used her language skills to teach the choir some Swahili called for in one song. When spiritual fellowship groups were introduced to the congregation, Marilyn joined one. Her group met twice a month for many years and they became fast friends. Although some newer members joined over time, the original group included several women who were long-term congregants, including Teresa Hake, Enid Hill, and Selma Levine. Over time, the ties grew stronger. As one person commented about her experience, there's a wonderful bonding in the group. We are trusted friends who support and encourage each other. Marilyn was respected as a valuable member who listened carefully and responded thoughtfully and appropriately. She was described as being especially friendly and welcoming to newcomers. When my husband and I joined the congregation in 2006, we benefited from that hospitality. Marilyn and Dale were among the first people we met, and their gracious welcome and encouraging greetings were high among the reasons we looked forward to returning. The hospitality and friendship offered by Marilyn and Dale was highly prized by so many who joined the congregation. An invitation to join them at their home for a drink was always considered an honor. That the congregation is in a strong position financially, I believe, is in large part owing to the dedication and capable hands of individuals like Marilyn, who gave seriously of themselves to create a strong community. At the end of the radio interview that we've heard parts of, Marilyn says of UCOB, quote, "It's a dynamic place," unquote. My view is that it is indeed, thanks to those like Marilyn who gave it their all, both professionally and personally. There are many adjectives that help to describe Marilyn Povenmire: friendly, warm, encouraging, sincere, supportive, dependable, and the list could go on. We at UCOB were so fortunate to have her in our midst. She was a treasure who gave generously of herself to create a strong congregation. All we can say is thank you for sharing so much of yourself, Marilyn. We are grateful beyond words. Marilyn Povenmire will be long remembered and appreciated. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for a while to remember the life and accomplishments of Marilyn Ross Povenmire. My name is Hugh Alexander Ross Jr., and my family knows me also as Sandy Ross. I'm her brother, and I speak to you today representing Marilyn's other siblings, Beverly and Kenneth. We were a tightly knit group of 4 kids, and we shared many joys and tragedies. I hope to give you some insight as to our childhood together and Marilyn's part in our world. Our parents were Charlotte Irene Harvey and Hugh Alexander Ross. The Harveys came to this country from the south of England, and my mother was born in 1910, shortly after they emigrated. She was the only one of 5 siblings to be born here. Her father was born in 1895 in a small fishing village in the northeast of Scotland. He emigrated to the US after he served in the British Army during the First World War. He had 7 brothers and sisters, 5 in the US, 1 living in Scotland, and 1 did not survive the First World War. Thus, we had a large extended family with many cousins in our hometown of Reading, Massachusetts, and in the adjacent towns. It was always a busy time when the families got together. Some might call it a mob scene. Our father was a chemist, and he commuted to Boston each day on the steam train. Our mom stayed home and took care of her kids. We had a large home, and it was a gathering place for the family and friends, including all the neighborhood kids. Our neighborhood was full of kids and of all ages, and we played together and walked to school together from the first grade till when we graduated from high school. Marilyn was the first child in our family, and she was the acknowledged smart one. Our mom said that she was her precocious child, way ahead of her age. Beverly was the second child, born 2 years later, and she was the athletic child. She was a ballet, tap, and toe dancer, and she was a baton twirler and cheerleader. I was third in line, 4 years younger than Marilyn, and I fixed things and did things around the house. I repaired broken things, windows, lights, and lawnmowers, and I eliminated creepy crawly things from the household. Ken was born 8 years after Marilyn, and he was an outgoing salesman and storyteller in the family. He would entertain us at the breakfast table with tales about his imaginary friends. Marilyn and Beverly were prone to getting into adventures, like the time they pried open a hot air floor vent in our house and promptly fell into the heating ducts. It took several hours and a skinny fireman to get them out of the duct and lift them out. And the newspapers had fun with the adventure. We have the news articles to prove it. Marilyn was a very curious youngster. One day when she was a toddler, she went shopping with her mom in a multi-story department store in Lowell, Massachusetts. Suddenly, she disappeared. Mom was horrified, and a search was quickly formed out of the staff and even the shoppers. After many agonizing minutes, she was found sitting on a windowsill, looking at the cars and people 4 stories below. She had peeked behind a rack of clothing, found an open window, and climbed onto the windowsill to see what was out there. Our family spent a month and many summers in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, where the water was freezing cold and our legs turned blue with cold until the latter part of August. Still, we went into the surf and swam like seals. I can never remember not being able to swim and ride the surf. It was a wonderful summer experience as a family. In the winter, the family would load sleds with food and firewood and trek to the local park, light a fire in the fireplaces. We would skate in the park, and afterwards our fingers were too cold to unlace our skates. So we would clump home, walking on the skate runners. Marilyn was the pace setter in the school system. She was always near the top of the class. And those days, the teachers would give extra credit for outside projects relating to the topics being studied. This was Marilyn's specialty. She would create enormous scrapbooks filled with the drawings, pictures, and articles relating to the subject. It was an exhausting research effort. I can imagine the emotions of her teachers when Marilyn advanced toward them with these tomes under her arms. She was a hard act to follow for us plain mortals who came after her. Our teachers would expect the same dedication, effort, and brilliance from her siblings. And I, for one, would see the teacher's disappointment when I did not measure up to Marilyn's performance. This did not bother me because I was on a different path than Marilyn. Life got more interesting when Marilyn matured a bit and the boys got interested. There were parties in our house and unfamiliar boys would appear on the scene. Of course, her siblings were not invited to the parties, but I would blend into the wallpaper and observe the ritual. The potential boyfriends would chat me up and try to gain the inside track. One of the potentials gave me a terrific hunting knife with leather sheath, hoping for inside information on Marilyn. Another potential gave me a job delivering Sunday papers. Still another potential arrived on Christmas Eve, driving his uncle's 1928 Rolls-Royce Phaeton. It had a front and back windshields and the top was down. It was gorgeous. We all piled in and cruised around town, hollering Merry Christmas and singing carols. Disaster struck in 1945 when our father died and our lives entered a period of turmoil and financial difficulty. All of us banded together and addressed the sorrow and life changes. Our mom went to work for the town tax department, and we kids took on any job that would help the financial situation. We babysat and took any other jobs that were available. The girls waited tables, and I delivered papers after school, cut lawns, and worked summers at an ice cream stand. When Ken got older, he took over my paper route, and later he worked as a pianist, playing jazz and working in a rock and roll band. Marilyn met her husband, Dale, when she waited on tables at the Fletcher School where Dale was attending. Our amazing mother insisted that we would go to college, although nobody knew how we would find the money. Marilyn's academic ability paved the way when she was awarded a full scholarship with room and board to Tufts University. She continued her leadership role by maintaining her high academic position, becoming a president of her sorority, establishing a women's rights group, and graduating summa cum laude. She enabled her siblings to believe that they could attend college too. Beverly attended Boston University and became an executive secretary to such accomplished leaders as the president of the International Monetary Fund, and the president of MIT's Sloan Grad School, and she directed the Cambridge University Fund in the USA, Alumni Fund. I graduated from BU Engineering School, and I became a designer and test engineer on rockets, rocket launch systems, and aircraft propulsion systems. Ken graduated from BU School of Communications. I worked in sales and advertising for publications such as Aviation Week. He is an accomplished pilot and flew his airplane all over the eastern US to meet his customers. I sometimes wonder if much of this would have been possible without Marilyn leading the way. And we give her our love, thanks, and appreciation for being our super sister.
It is an honor to speak about our mother and to celebrate her life. She was strong, and she taught us to call upon our own inner strength. There are 4 of us, and 4 was her lucky number. Marilyn Ross Povenmire was the eldest of 4 siblings and 8 years older than the youngest. Like Mom, I am the eldest of her 4 children and 8 years older than the youngest. Mom showed us the power of perseverance. She lost her father, Hugh Alexander Ross, at the age of 12, and she missed him dearly all the days of her life. But that early, devastating loss and the resulting emotional and economic hardship gave her drive, and she applied that power to reach great success academically, and then across a rich tapestry of accomplishments. Her mother, Charlotte, was a singular role model of how to face challenges, comfort, nurture, and triumph at enjoying life. Mom recognized that education is crucial to success and realizing potential. She earned a full scholarship at Tufts University, where she was president of her college sorority and graduated summa cum laude. She met her husband there, and together they traveled far beyond the horizons of her native New England. Mom relied on her capabilities and self-confidence to build an important and impactful 20-year career with the United States Foreign Service. Her contributions included serving as Deputy Consul General at US embassies in Rome and London, and including serving as, and also advancing US interests globally as Director of Policy and Coordination
for the State Department's Bureau of Consular Affairs and breaking new ground for women's rights along the way. Our brother Ross and I were both born in Honolulu, Hawaii. Our sister Carol was born in Santiago, Chile. Our sister Elizabeth was also born on an island, Zanzibar, off the coast of East Africa. Together, the four of us explored continents, traveling and living in dozens of countries around the world with Mom and our extraordinary and wonderful father. All of you know him as Dale. Their love and support are the foundations of our lives and always will be. Mom was beautiful and brilliant. With her thick red hair, she was proud of her Scottish and English heritage. She was wise and kind and generous. She was brave and she was a trailblazer. She encouraged us to treasure the journey and strive to do our best. She and Dad helped us understand basic truths, integrity, and the importance of resilience. As we traveled the world, Mom pointed out the beauty she saw in other people and their unique environments. And she appreciated the pride they had in their own heritage, natural resources, and culture. Our mother was a teacher, explorer, and like her loving and beloved husband of 66 years, a diplomat. She was also a storyteller. She could describe moments and interactions in ways that were vivid and compassionate. She lived her life with grace. And while we will all miss her tremendously, her personal and professional achievements and experiences are broad, exceptional, and manifold. Marilyn savored her time on this earth and lived her days with Dale fully, seeking to make a positive difference for their family, their friends and colleagues, their church, their country, and the concerns of individuals and nations they addressed throughout their distinguished careers. Her light will shine brightly within us all the days of our lives.
Thank you, Bev and Sandy and Susan. A short poem from Mary Oliver. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it is over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. If you join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Great Spirit of life, we give thanks for the life of Marilyn Ross Povenmire. Marilyn wasn't simply a visitor to this world. She was here. She made of her life something particular and real. And we are so grateful that we're the ones she lived among. Her light was exceedingly strong. She let it shine in so many ways. And we are the ones from whom her light will continue to shine. As we move into an uncertain future without her, help us to keep remembering, to keep telling the story, and to keep supporting and caring for each other in good times and in bad. Shalom, salam, amen, and blessed be. And now may the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. Go in peace. And Elizabeth, if you would, Elizabeth has another poem by Robert Burns.
Ye banks and braes, O bonny Doon, how can ye bloom, save fresh and fair? How can ye chant, ye little birds, and I so weary, full of care? Thou break my heart, thou warbling birds, that once through the flowering thorn. Thou minds me, O departed joys, departed, never to return.
And now I believe we'll have a postlude before we open up the Zoom meeting to more of a chat room. I'm not certain this mic is on, but if you can hear my voice, you might unmute yourself and we'll see how this goes. You also could return your Zoom page to the gallery view from the speaker view, and that might help you.
My hand didn't raise.
You don't have, you can still be, you don't have to be on the picture
Yeah, true.
unless you want to.
Well, I needed it. You want to say something?
The last 2
Hmm?
minutes. Take it.
Well, I just know how warmly Dale and Marilyn greeted me and so many others at UCOV. And it was a true delight to be able to be around them. I mean, they're always so gracious and loving. And I miss Marilyn a lot.
Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you, Dale, for all you've done and all Marilyn has done for this church. It's just absolutely amazing.
Hi, this is Pam Palmer. I just wanted to say I do not know Marilyn well, but I do know of many of her things she did for the church, the congregation. I know Dale, but I also will be very thankful, very nicely, that she was able to come to our wedding even in the time of COVID in the park. So it's very nice to have known her during a happy occasion.
Just say something to everybody. And then okay.
Well, Dale and Marilyn were one of the first couples to invite us to dinner when we first came to Venice. And I think there are many people that can say that about coming to UCOV. The first couple they met were Dale and Marilyn. And it was wonderful to spend an evening with them and get to know them and hear their stories, and such fascinating stories, and just really wonderful people. And I'm so glad to have known Marilyn. And thank you for sharing her with us.
Hi, my name is Pradeep, and Dale, Susan, Ross, Carol, and Ita, I love you all. I was brought into your family at age 12. You took me in, you made me part of your family, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Love you all.
I'd like to follow Pradeep. I'm in the same room with Ita, so we have a little feedback. And if you can bear with the feedback, because we haven't resolved it. Maybe I'll go to the other room. Over here. Oh, it's terrible. Okay. So I would just like to say, I've also been part of the Povenmire family since I was 17 years old, and met Ita at Tufts and learned about her wonderful family, and continued to be her friend and meet her wonderful family, her sisters, her brother whom I married, and her mom and dad. And I'm especially grateful to Marilyn for giving me this family to join, and also for providing a lot of firsts for my family. Really providing with Dale, first time we vacationed at a lake house in New England, the first time going to Florida, first time taking a cruise, providing many wonderful memories and vacation times for my children, and investing in my family, and when times have been hard and when times have been good, and always believing in the strength of the family, and being a constant and calm and incisive presence in our lives. And I just want to say I love you all, and that we will miss her very much. I will miss her very much.
I can also say that the relationships we have had have worked both ways. Pradeep has started a foundation after a successful career as an engineer in the United States. He started a foundation for students in Asia and Africa. And this year he's putting 360 students through college in their own countries. This is a wonderful tribute to him and to the values that he has created.
Dale, you and Marilyn get credit for that. I'm just passing it on. You showed me kindness and family and values, and especially the value of an education. So right back at you and Marilyn on that one.
Granddad and Nana supported me going forward with art, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have attended the Ringling College of Art and Design, and it was really important, and I'll really miss her. They were always supportive of all of us with all of our ventures, and they were, if you wanted someone to back you up and support you, they were always there, and they'll be missed. Well, she'll be missed. We luckily have Granddad at the moment. Okay.
Thank you, Asa.
This is Gina from the Ross household.
Hello.
So here we are. I just have such wonderful memories of Marilyn sending us Christmas cards from all over the world, and it let us know that but it didn't end at the end of our driveway, and the world had such amazing things to learn and beauty. And where was that that Marilyn, my cousins were? Where we need to find out about that. So she made me research to see where my wonderful cousins were. And as I've gone through and told my daughter, I said, you come from a line of very, very strong, amazing women. And I told her about it, Marilyn, and that, you know, you have a lineage that comes to you and something to live on. So thank you.
I know it's a little bit early in the day, but I have a little bit of Scotch.
Yeah, it's tea time.
Not very much.
I'll raise a glass to that.
That's good.
I'm Ross Povenmire. I'm Marilyn Povenmire's son. And I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. It was so wonderful to see so many people that we know and care about and to see all of you here today to join in the celebration and remembrance of my mother, Marilyn Povenmire. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Bertina Povenmire. I guess I'm a cousin-in-law of Dale's. And I had the pleasure of meeting Marilyn, and it was a pleasure each time, about 3 times in my life when we visited. And Dale, I'm sorry for your loss. It's tough.
Well, I think I would like to say thank you to everybody that has participated in the program today. I very much appreciate the support and care that we've had from the people here in Venice, the people here at the church who have done so much to put a Zoom session together with all of the handicaps that go with the current epidemic. They've worked very hard and it's so very much appreciated. And thank you to everyone who has attended. Marilyn and I had 66 great years together. It has been a good trip. Thank you.
Where? Rita? Oh, yeah.
So. Okay. Say anything.
Thank you to both your wonderful families for letting us be part of this very special service. It's amazing to see so many wonderful people from all over the world, people who've been all over the world and are doing such good in the world. That is just exactly what Marilyn and Dale are all about. So Dale, your example is going to light our way a long ways going forward, and we will remember Marilyn with great, great joy. So thank you so much, Dale, and to all the Povenmire and Ross families. Okay?
Well, I think that if there's all the things that there is to say, I think that we've pretty well said them. I think Cleaver is going to come on in just a moment and say a word of farewell.
I don't know if this is on, but if it is, you've said the words of farewell, Dale, and thank you everybody for participating in this. I know we miss Marilyn. I know we are thankful for the life Marilyn lived. And I hope that the recording of this proceeding will be up on our YouTube channel and on our webpage so that other people can join in later and see what was said. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you all.
Bye.
So much
Bye.
love.
Much
Thank
love.
you.
Peace.
Bye.
Thank
Peace.
you. Bye. Love y'all. Bye.
Love you.
Jim, oh, Jim.